Hi there, everyone. Leah here filling in for Ashley. We're going to get things started in a second. I know a lot of you guys were very happy that this session got rescheduled. And the question today to get things started and kicked off is, what is one thing that you've done out of your comfort zone, but you did it anyway? You got in there, wasn't exactly your zone of genius, but you got in there and nailed it. Go ahead and throw those into the comments. All right. If someone can let me know if they can hear me okay. Make sure everything is working. We're going to be getting started chatting with Sonia Narvaez. Thanks, Holly. And I'm super excited about this topic today. One, it's close to my heart, the role of the COO, but also having someone who this is their zone of genius and to share some insight. I know a lot of us are super excited about that. All right. So again, the question, if you guys can throw it into the chat, your answer is, what's one thing that you've done that's been out of your comfort zone, but you got in there and you did it anyway? And I would have to say for myself, it is doing these PROWESS Live sessions. As the introvert on the team, these are the things that I don't always get in there and feel like I necessarily do the most fantastic job, but we're here. And again, I think when the topic I'm passionate about, then we do have a lot of fun. So look forward to the questions that you guys have. I'm going to go ahead and bring Sonia up. Hi, Sonia. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
So excited to be here. And I am so glad that we are both out of our comfort zones, because as a fractional COO and introvert and projector, we're kind of like behind the scenes.
Yes. I enjoy being behind the scenes.
Oh my God, I love it. But sometimes we gotta pop our heads out and maybe get a haircut sometimes.
Yeah. So to put you on stage, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us about you, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm Sonia Narvaez, and I run Operation QOL. We focus on helping business owners build, design, and execute systems and structure to help them amplify their impact, and without sacrificing that quality of life. Quality of life is so important, because actually I got started as a master's in public health student, and I was graduating from graduate school. I thought this was what I was going to do, went to go work in the healthcare industry. I was boots on the ground working in New York City at federally qualified health centers. And I realized one day that it was really, really rough working with sick people that were just kind of sick all the time. And I don't want to go too far into the healthcare system and the issues, but it's just kind of a revolving door of not really caring for the person as much as they should. So it was really, really difficult for me. And I realized, okay, I love health. I love people sometimes, but I don't really like doing that all the time. And so what else can I do to help, people themselves and also focus on the health? And so I realized that I really loved and learned the word operations, honestly, because I don't know about you guys, but when I was in, undergrad, there's no such thing as an operations person. I mean, they exist, but I've not heard of the title ever, So one thing that I realized was I just loved kind of everything and anything that has to do with moving the business forward and focusing my brain on solving those problems. And I wouldn't say picking up behind people or anything like that, but it would be being in that collaborative environment where we're really all working together to make a beautiful vision grow.
Oh, Sonia, thank you so much for sharing all that. What I love is my background is in human services, and I was in the foster care system in Chicago. So again, yes, you're seeing a lot of systems and operations, and there's so much you can be doing. But yes, you leave a lot on the table during the day, right? Energy wise.
Absolutely.
I love that. So I'm curious, what was the progression from doing that, seeing that you wanted to make this change, to getting to where you are today and running your own business?
So there were a lot of changes and a lot of learnings, because one thing that I struggled with a lot was imposter syndrome, and obviously still do. But I had, thought that like entrepreneurial journey, what are we talking about here? What is this? Because I was actually at a job at the time that was really great. It was working from home before working from home was a thing. They had a New York office. They were super nice. Everybody was great. And I was like working with people, but not really like with people. So it was more of that program management, project management work. And it was great. I loved it. And then at the time I got let go because it was a startup and there was just a lot going on, and they kind of eliminated the project that I was working on. And I was at this crossroads of like, God, like despite all of, good salary, like all of these things happening, I was very, very unfulfilled. And I could not understand what was going on, like, because I'm first generation. So like, that's not a word for us. Like for my family, it's like you work, you make money, you survive. Like that's as far as, we have to, like, that's my responsibility to like live and take care of myself and take care of everybody else. So fulfillment was never anything that was in my head. It was never something that I even thought about until I had that moment in time where, I was in this crossroads. And so I started looking at, oh, look, virtual assistant work. I've done assistant work my whole life, interned at like the schools and everything while I was a kid. And so I was like, I got this. I can do this. And then I realized that I really did not like it too much, because it was just like a lot of details and meticulousness. And I'm not very detailed or meticulous, and I get very tired in the weeds. And not to say that it's not important, and not to say that like, it's any less than the work, focus now, but it wasn't something that was aligned with me, because I skedaddle all over. And after that, I learned a bit about EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And I totally dove headfirst in there. And I was like, integrator, this is great. I love it. And then I realized I did the Integrator Mastery Academy when they had, like, I was class 2. I don't think I have the t-shirt anymore because the poor thing got holes in it. But, I loved it. And I still very much respect and think that the framework is wonderful. But I also realized that there was just so much more customization that needed to be done in a business. There was just so much more that people really needed to ensure that we had humans taken into account, not just like the clients, but the employees. A lot of times systems and processes were so focused on actually making it so that, oh, our clients are amazing. Like they love us, they blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden, like the employees are, overworked, understaffed, exhausted, and very unhappy. And just because they can kind of put the happy face on for 9 to 5 or from whatever time they're working does not mean that they are, in it for the long haul. And that's what you really want in your people.
Oh, so important. You've hit on so many great points. And I love that, like, you could kind of see all that big picture, but you're still, again, that you want to get in there and to be doing the work. So,
yeah.
So tell me more about how then you ended up with your current company. Was it like, oh, I just see this opening, or did it evolve over time?
Well, to be honest, it very much evolved over time, and I'm still evolving, right? So one thing that after I realized the integrator role, I worked with somebody at their company for a couple of years, and it wasn't the best fit. So then in 2021, January, I was like, oh, okay, great. Let's start this business, like that. We're focused on operations. We're focused on providing, operations strategy. I was more support than I was, that high level strategy. I wasn't comfortable with the COO kind of role yet or any of those things, but I was like, let me just do operations and see how that works out. And that was January 2021. And so, for the next couple of months, I did a little bit of, I did a lot of like talking to people, meeting new people, entering new circles. And then March 2021, we had the pandemic. And, one thing that is a characteristic of a lot of us operations people is we are not super risk tolerant. And so I was like, nope, not starting a business during this time. I do not have like this, like, I don't know, sorry. So I took a job as a full-time director of operations at a local nonprofit. And so through that, I learned a lot about nonprofit operations and the fun bureaucracy behind grants and all of those wonderful things. But after that, the itch came back, a year later. Things had, we weren't really settled, but they were kind of becoming something into what was our daily life. And I realized and felt comfortable at that moment to go out and say, okay, I've got this. I'm going to focus on this. And, I've really started to come into that space and love it. Just love everything I'm doing right now. Well, aside from when we have to get stuck doing the implementation. Or like when I have to do it.
Yes. So, and I'm curious, Tiffany just asked a great question. This was popped into my head too, is curious, like during that transition, what were titles that you used? Like, or were you very clear, like I'm an operations expert, or what did that look like for you?
So, what's really funny? For a long time, I was like not wanting to title myself. I just was like, I'm operations. This is my function. This is me. This is what I do. And that's as far as like, want to go. Obviously I couldn't leave it at that, but I played around with, operations director, operations manager. Like literally I've called myself just operations to people. Because I just felt it's very, very hard when you work in operations to have a defined anything. Like to have, like, there's always a little bit of scope creep, right? There's always a little bit of things you don't think about because operations is anything and everything related to moving the business forward. That's literally the definition. So whenever something doesn't get done or can't get done or someone's not there, like, typically it's the operations people that have to pick up the slack. So it was a very weird thing to have to figure out a name. And then also, you have corporate like that. We still kind of use those labels and those are the labels we're familiar with. So, I started going for that more COO. And, at one point I was like, I am your ops fairy godmother because I don't know what else to call myself. And then I've kind of decided on this kind of chief ops optimizer, which is because I love, really focusing on that optimization. I focus on, operations because we're always optimizing as operations people. We're always looking to make it better. We're always looking to improve and add new things into our repertoire because we're always learning.
Yes. I like that. So you kind of came up with your own, in the end, you came up with your own title. I love that. And so do you see a clear line between like here we have a lot of online business managers. Like when do you have any recommendations on when someone might switch to be like, I am more of that chief in that role, that title bracket versus OBM?
I would say that, you start to feel that transition or, it's time for that transition when being part of the hands-on all the time, like being that hands-on person who has to pick up everything else after everyone, like is not in their happy place anymore. Like there is sometimes a balance, a lot of times what I have found, OBMs are wonderful to be in the space of being kind of strategy and helping with implementation. So they have these wonderful kind of half and halves, to make their whole person. But a lot of times moving forward, you start to feel I'm a little bit more into that strategy. So now I'm, 3/4 strategy, 1/4 implementation. And all of a sudden we've now moved over into, now we're just not really feeling that we want to do a lot of the hands work. That does not mean I don't do, by the way, any kind of implementation work. It doesn't mean I don't ever look at people at a, writing the systems, writing the processes. Like I handle a lot of different things because one thing that is very indicative of operations people is that we fill the gaps wherever it needs to be filled.
Sometimes we can't stop ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I would love to know more about how you set that up then for your clients, packages, hourly. What does that look like?
Yeah. So what I do is I offer kind of two ways of working with me. One is a more project based, and one is more of that fractional COO role. And so when I work on the project base, it's really that done for you. I'm coming in to help you really, design those service, like the systems and processes around you and your team, understanding your team's like habits, what, their goals are. Like the more we can bring the vision throughout the company, use your core values, and putting all that kind of together and then putting it in your systems and structure, right? If a client, their core value is white glove service and excellence, everything is going to have that extra touch. There may not have as much automation, right? But if someone else's is more focused on efficiency and speed, you may think about more automations, which is a little less like, white glove. So I look at that, we develop a plan, and then we implement that plan. And I lead the implementation of the plan. I have a couple staff members that help me with the actual implementation. They do the tasks and the boots on the ground. And then I help them with project management or anything that needs to be filled, I'll do. If Sally's not here today and she was supposed to write 6 processes, Sonia's writing 6 processes with the help of her other process person. So that is one way. And then in that time, we focus on kind of what I call this survival phase, which is where you come into the business and you already know that CEO, the team, they're maxed out. They're really in this survival moment in their business. And we have to pick out what works because something's working, right? Things are working, like business is coming in, things are working. We got to keep those things. Then I kind of go into this second phase with my clients during the implementation that I call I would say decompression phase, because we're finally implementing some systems and structure. We're really rolling things out with the team. We're teaching them how to do or use the systems and structure and then tailor their daily work and habits to ensure that they feel comfortable doing it regularly on their own. Because the point is to create, massive sustainable change, but it's done in incremental steps. Mm-hmm. So once we have the decompression phase, that's where the project ends. At the end of the decompression phase, which is where we're doing the implementation and the rollout, that's kind of that done for you service. And then in the third kind of bubble is with fractional COO, it includes all of that plus an expansion, right? And that's where we really have a great time being more creative, having a lot more strategy conversations, because we have so much more room now that we've already, gone through this phase.
Oh, I love that. I love how you break that down. I mean, it feels very almost like a humanistic model, right? Of how we move through transitions and helping them understand where they are in their company. I think that's fantastic, because sometimes when you're in it, right, you don't even know where you are. So you need that person to come in and help you be like, okay, you actually you can move beyond survival, because sometimes people don't want to let go of that. So I love that. And then where would you place, if someone, and this might not be part of the packages you currently offer, but someone that more VA, where do you see that step up to where it's more online business or business manager, and then, then needing the COO? How would you break that down?
So VAs are great hands and implementers. A lot of times, there needs to be very, very clearly laid out steps, processes, and they do need more direction. They need more guidance. And so when someone is kind of in that, they're really doing the work, they're being kind of managed in terms of what's going on. They're not doing much of the management. They're really just those hands, and they'll do what you tell them to do in a way. And like I said, none of this is oh, this is bad, this is good. This is everybody has a specialty, and I value the work that VAs do more than sometimes my own work, because it's oh my God, thank you so much for fixing that on my calendar. Thank you so much for answering that email because I hated that person. And you were so much nicer than what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's really, really important that obviously the first hire CEOs make is really that VA, because they need that support, and they need to start learning how to expand outside of themselves after their solopreneur phase. But I would say that when, as a VA, you start having to manage more things, you start having to be the point of contact for contractors, you start being in those conversations where there is this back and forth of, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Oh, you know what? Sally over here, like this contractor is really great at this. And I know we have this gap. So I'm wondering if it would be good to, come over here. So it's like when you're thinking way more outside of just what's going on today, what needs to get done today, this week, tomorrow. And we're really thinking, okay, cool. Let's insert that high level of more proactivity, more strategy, more focusing on, let's go in this direction. Like once you start being like, how about we go this way? Then I would say that's really when you could think about that step to the OBM. Mm-hmm. And, when you go from like OBM to the COO, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier, which was really all about like when you stop feeling that moment of like implementation, it's not for you. You really want to focus on that strategy. You have experience in really like you've learned a lot as an OBM, and you really have that experience to know, all right, I see this stop sign means we should go over here. This stop sign means we should go over here. And if this doesn't work, well, then we got to pivot, and we got to pivot. Like we got to know what our resources are to pivot. So you got to be able to like think even farther out, right? So if VA is thinking here and helping the CEO here, like then we've got the OBM, that's the bigger container. And then we've got the COO, that's the biggest container.
Oh, that is so helpful. And I love it. I think you're answering so many people's questions in the chat. Yes. And another great one here is, did you start completely online, or did you have more of the brick and mortar, and recommendations for people that are starting to get out there and find clients?
So I will say that, I started online, and I started sort of online. I actually started at a co-working space. And I had the co-working space owner, like she was a friend of mine, and she introduced me to a couple people, and they were online business owners of marketing or, finance or other things. So I started to do a little bit more VA work for them and get to know them. But I really did start kind of in that online space. And at the time, Facebook was still really big, but there was so much screaming in the Facebook groups about, oh, here's my services, or like, here's what I do, here's what I like, or, oh, I need help in this, but I'm wondering what you guys think. And all of a sudden you get 60 people who are like, oh, here's this. So it was really, really loud. And I tried to focus more on that co-working space. And I went to like more local chambers as well. Because I personally focus on service-based businesses. I don't focus much on product-based businesses because that's a whole different set of operations. And I really tried to find kind of those consultants, those service-based people in my community. And then I started to kind of branch out to other communities as well.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you did have a niche, which we talk about a lot here, is having that niche can really help you focus and help people recommend people to you.
Absolutely. The more specific you can be, people are so scared to be specific. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you that, like, you know what I mean? I'm specific with you here, but I'm specific with you in a different way over here. So it's like, it's not that you have to say the same thing to everybody. If a marketing person, that they know way more marketing people, maybe it's all about, I work with marketing agencies that are $3 million in revenue, but then, you also do you're industry agnostic. I work with finance people because, they know finance. Like, you need to be like tailoring it a little bit. Don't lie to anybody, but, focusing on like, it's not just kind of one size fits all. Right. And that's what part of our motto as operations people is.
Right. Two And how big is the team that you currently have working with you now for you?
So I currently have one employee, another contractor, and I'm looking to expand a little bit more with other VA companies as well, because VA is a big need for some clients. And unfortunately, when you go into these businesses, people aren't always in the right seats. And not just people aren't always in the right seats. Some people are not good. Like, it sounds terrible, but some people are just, they're not it. They're not the right person for you. They're not doing their job, or, whatever's happening, it's just not a fit. And we need to replace that person in order to really focus on like moving forward. And a VA is very pivotal to the work that I do. I mean, they are there with the CEO. They're keeping them, accountable. They're helping them just as I am, right? In a different way. But then I also need people to help me with all the things that I have to do, to then also help me with project managing things, and then also help me do with these. So there's a lot of room, I think, for so much collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also, one thing that I don't always leave businesses with people having a COO, right? I sometimes, like, I'm done with clients and what they have is a VA and a couple contractors. I have other people that I know that, we finish our project and they like have an OBM that helps them run everything and keep everything going. So I definitely think that sometimes there is, short-term needs, but that bring in long-term solutions.
Sure. And we talk about that a lot. Like, the product that you're kind of leaving behind as an operation person needs to match where they are, right? Because every business is at a different stage. I'm curious if you have any words of wisdom for this group when it comes to working with kind of the personality and the people side of it. Like, it sounds like you do a lot of work almost in that, like you talked about, like making sure the right people are in the right spots, but there is a kindness that has to be passed on, right? Because this is someone's business. Do you have any kind of favorite tools that you use to help work with teams like that?
I would say that the biggest soft skill in my pocket is patience. And also just, one thing I really try to do is not just create a safe environment for all of the people that I speak with, but also just letting them know that I'm human as well. And I'm not here to take their jobs. I'm not here to, get them fired. I'm not here to totally nix them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to make sure that the business is healthy, sustainable, and that everybody inside it is as empowered as possible.
Oh, I love that. Coming at it from, like, patience is such a huge one. And I think when you model that, when you come in as that outsider and you model the patience, that then it has a ripple effect of like, oh, okay, we're not here to make this big drastic change and feel urgent and feel like it's an emergency.
Yeah.
It is a process because we're respecting what's already here.
Exactly. And like I said, even in survival phase, there are some things that are working, right? Like a lot of my clients, they come to me when they are at that high growth stage, but everything else is falling apart. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's really important to always have that type of empathy, even with everybody.
Yeah. Yes. And guys, keep throwing those questions that you have in here. You guys have asked some really great ones already today. I don't think I've missed any yet, but can you share any highs and lows in this entrepreneurial journey that you've had?
Sorry. So, what's really funny? I would say that one of my biggest highs, until I like thought about it in like perspective, was that like after I hit that 6-figure mark, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is it. I am it. We are it. This is it. And then I was like, oh, wait, this isn't actually it yet. But I would say that was really a proud moment, because I have never done that. Like, even in my corporate career, I never had that. And I also, like I said, come from a first generation family. So we've experienced a lot of, hardships, and we were very, very blessed as well, in other times, but surviving is really a lot of what I knew. And it was only maybe this year that I feel that I've really come out of that survival mindset and coming into more of that decompression and expansion. And I say that because last year, I don't know about for everybody else, but last year was really hard for me. Like it was hard business wise. It was hard emotionally. It was hard mentally. It was hard physically. And I had some really, really terrible clients when I first started. Like, well, not when I first started, like I've had some terrible clients throughout. And you know, those clients make you feel really bad. And they make you feel like you are the problem. And that maybe this isn't it. So there were moments where like I very much doubted myself. And I very much thought that like I don't think this is gonna be it for me because I'm like an introvert and you know, very, very not always visible and not always in front of people and not always shouting my name through the rooftops. And so, you know, there was some really, really kind of moments where there was questions and up to, you know, I'm very blessed. I'm actually in year 3 right now. So, you know, we still have some years to go to beat those statistics, but like, you know, it happens at all times. And, you know, I have to say that like finding also communities that really support you and that are filled with great people and genuine people. I think as operations people, we actually have pretty good senses of people because we have to. And so I've been able to really kind of step into communities where there's much more authenticity. There's much more quirkiness, because that's definitely what I think to myself.
Yes, yes. Any words of wisdom on where to find those communities? Because I do think that's so important to sometimes have that reality check of like, is this me or is this them?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, so one thing that we probably don't do as much anymore, but I would say try it on. So I've gone to different communities and there was like a community that, you know, I felt was totally aligned, right? And then I went to another community and I felt like a horse at an auction because they were like, you want to meet with them? You want to meet with them? How about that? Yep. These are like, I was like, never again, you know? So, and then there were others where like, I am so sorry. It's going to sound mean, but like everybody was just not super diverse. And so it also felt, you know, not always very comfortable. So I have to be, you know, so I would say like, try it on, like, because you're not going to know what's going to be, you know, like healthy for you until you actually do that. And then also like, be okay with outgrowing communities. You know, there are certain communities that I have left because it's not a right fit for me anymore. I'm in a different level of business. And I remember my, you know, first year and second year and things like that. And it's just different now. So you want to be able to talk to people who are in that similar space.
Sure. Oh, that's great. And one question here for you is, what systems do you find most valuable for running your business? Not client facing, but for you. So do you have any favorite tech or just ops tools that you rely on?
I mean, obviously, without a doubt, like Google is my like top number one. I can't do Microsoft. I mean, I do. And I have clients that have it, but I don't know. It's just, there's something fun about Google that Microsoft has not been able to get up to. I would say Teamwork is actually my favorite project management tool and what I use, but that is not always what I recommend to my clients, right? Like what's good for me is not good for everybody else. And then the other tool that I have to say is one of my favorites is Superhuman. It is an email management program where you can manage like multiple inboxes. And, you know, being the COO for people, you typically have your own email and all of a sudden I've got 6 inboxes, but I don't want to just put them into one. That's too confusing. So it's a tool that you can use hotkeys in and it easily moves from one inbox to another.
Oh, I'll have to check that one out.
Oh my God, it's so much fun.
Does it also have like the AI features to like?
It does. It's they've added that in and it's great. And there's a desktop app for it too. So like on my Mac, it's right there. And it's my number one tool probably that I open up.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. We're almost at time, everyone. So any more questions, throw them into the chat. And Sonia, anything else that you want to share with this group? Pass on advice?
I would have to say that, this has come up recently. And one thing that I have noticed is like staying in your lane. Like, we are operations people and we are very good at picking up anything and everything that people throw at us. And let me tell you, it is not always the best idea to attempt it, because you will have clients that are unhappy. You will have people that just are not going to, like, it's going to just sour the mood. It's going to change the relationship. Don't take on things that you don't feel you have expertise in, because, bring in the experts. Everybody knows somebody. And I think it's really important that we focus on what we're experts in and bring other amazing experts in as well, and share the wealth.
Am I hearing you say it's okay to say no?
Oh, I mean,
yes.
Woo!
Yes. I always say just because you can does not mean you should, right? Like, It is okay to say no to the things that they're not in our zone of genius. And especially with operations people, we can do a lot. We have done a lot. And if it's not lighting you up, there's no reason to spend that energy there.
Exactly. And, you become resentful. Like, I know for me, like, I will bottle it up until I can't bottle it up anymore. So I become very resentful. And then I just kind of hate the position that I'm in. And, not saying no has definitely been really difficult because it's counterintuitive, right? You feel like, no. Everybody that comes to me, I got to take them. And sometimes financially you do. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not telling you if you don't have food on the table to say no to the next client, right? That's going to bring money in. That's definitely not what I'm, trying to portray, because, I think it was very, when I was going through the ranks of entrepreneurship, I definitely remember everyone being like, turn away all of those people that, like, you don't want to work with. And then all the amazing people are going to come to you. And that's what you're going to attract. And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a minute, have a little patience, and, like, slowly and strategically move towards those people that we are going to work with. So as a person of systems, like, when I started working with people under 100K, that was like the point. Then I was like, okay, so my next client isn't going to make any less than 250 so that I can raise my rate to this. Same thing, 4 people at that, 5 people at that, so incrementally, like, gamify it for yourself and have fun. But also just remember that there's no shame in the journey, and how, we have to go through the journey ourselves, like how we choose to go through that journey. I don't think anybody should feel ashamed for having to do anything that, everyone's like, don't jump off the bridge, obviously, but, like, unless you've got, your parachute or your bungee jumping. But, I think it's really important that everybody's open with themselves and their journey.
Yes. There is that trust yourself, right? Like, you. I love that. Thank you for everything that you've shared with this group. I know that in our community that you've answered a lot of questions, and just that mindset, it's great to hear from. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you then. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.